Okay. Yay, we made it. Barely. Hello, ladies. Yay.
Hello.
All right. I am Tanya Milano, parent coach, and this is in my group Reacted to Relaxed, support for moms who yell or need self-regulation. And today we're talking to Martina and Stephanie, both moms, both coaches, and we're going to be talking about what abundance really means to us, and also specifically money mindset and our money stories, because it really links to abundance in all areas of our lives when we can really look at like how these have impacted our lives. Okay, so Martina and Steph, do you want to say a quick sentence about who you are before we get started? Okay.
Sure, I can go. So my name is Martina Wall, and I am a self-love coach, and I empower women to accept and respect their bodies at any size by disrupting diet culture and just bringing connection back to our bodies.
Welcome. And I'm Stephanie Mello. I am a holistic faith and life coach, and I help mamas deconstructing their faith experience. So I help women to connect back to their actual values and how they want to live their lives and live according to those principles instead of the defaults of the world around us.
All right. And I am a mom who has kids home right now, running around. So, yeah, you guys are going to have to separate for a little bit. They're both sick. It's been quite a week around here. So first, we're going to start with all of our money stories kind of way back before we started working on this stuff. This mindset and abundance mentality. Do you need something? I'll have someone else go first with, where you were before.
Yeah, I can go first. So I grew up in pretty much a single parent home. My dad died when I was 7. My parents got divorced when I was 6. So my mom was like the primary breadwinner. She was everything. And obviously there's a lot that comes with that, not having 2 incomes and all of the stress of seeing my mom have to do it all. And then like being surrounded by mostly friends who had both of their parents in their home. And maybe there was only one income earner, but I definitely felt that my experience was different than a lot of my friends were when it came to money, because money doesn't grow on trees, right? That was something that we heard a lot. But then there was also this money story in the back of my mom's dad's dad. And he basically stole the inheritance from all of his siblings and then like ran off and started his farm. And he was like pretty much not a good person at all. But combined with some of the like teachings of like evangelical Christianity, I kind of took that story into this: you can't serve God and money, and love of money is the root of all evil. And I really believed and was taught like in my home that money corrupts, not that people are corrupt and that money just amplifies that, like their desire or lack or whatever. So like I felt that it was like unspiritual and bad to pursue money, to say I love money, anything like that. So I had to learn to do it all as not having a dad around. I'd change my own tires, those types of things. And when I was 17, I got a car from a friend who was like getting married, and they just didn't want to have 2 cars anymore. And I had like saved up all this money from working, and then I didn't know how to take care of my radiator, and I had to get a new radiator, and I had money to pay for it. But I just remember feeling like so defeated, like I saved up all this money and now there's an emergency. And that's a story that I have carried through the years. And I would not say that's how I live now, but I still get triggered into that old thinking. So just this idea of anytime there's money, it's going to be depleted for an emergency. There's just barely enough, and it's only for needs. It's not for wants or desires. And so basically where I was like lonely and afraid. That's how I felt around money.
Yeah, that second question we wanted to talk about was like the feelings, right, that come from these stories. And what I heard you say is depleted, afraid, lonely, like all of these feelings that started to arise from, yeah, the growing up in this place. Yeah.
Mhm.
Would you say there's any other feelings?
Frustrated, right? Because like you work hard because that's supposed to bring money, and then it's gone. So,
Yeah, frustrated. Okay, before we go into the positive shifts, let's go to Martina's story and the feelings that you kind of associated with your story.
Yeah. So my money story, I feel like similarities to Steph's, absolutely. Growing up, it was this constant feeling of lack. Either, there was the abundance of money, and then as soon as you had the abundance, it was the lack of money. So as soon as you would get it, you knew that it was just going to be gone soon. And then there was also the mentality of that you had to only save money and not spend money. But it was impossible to save money. So it was this, toxic relationship with money of that there was never enough. Like Steph said, it doesn't grow on trees. And that I think for me, a big part of it as more of an adult has been just my own self-love journey, connecting it back to, I wasn't attracting abundance because I didn't feel like I was worthy of abundance, and that I was worthy of putting a price tag on my value and my worth and what I bring to the world. And so for me, that has been the more recent struggles that I've had with money, is working through those feelings of knowing that I do bring worth and I do bring value, and that I am enough, and that I deserve money. And so for me, I think the biggest shift has been within my own self-love journey, that I am able to now see that as I continue to work on that I can see the other side of it, knowing that I am worthy of those things, and that with that consistent practice of shifting our mindsets is a big important part of my practice in helping my money mindset change.
Mm. Yeah, and what kind of feelings do you say you carried from those younger stories in your life?
I think it's just that the unworthiness, the not feeling valued, kind of hopeless around money, I guess, would be that there's no point because it just disappears.
Yeah,
and
hopeless is a really big one.
Yeah.
That feeling of hopelessness. Woo, okay. So my money story, I go back to what really defined my family was when my parents went from a family of 5, 3 kids, pretty stable. Both were working. And then my mom had an unexpected pregnancy, ended up being twins. So they went in from, pretty stable to what the hell do we do now kind of life. And then that was what carried through my entire childhood. Like, what the hell are we doing kind of feeling. So it felt very insecure, very scary. There was a lot of fear around money. But this, I guess, lack was what it was, scary, insecurity. And then being the oldest, feeling like I had to take some responsibility. Like I had to get my first job at 14. I would ride my bike to Dunkin' Donuts and make money. I remember rolling the tip money into, we had to roll them and bring them to the bank back then. And like my first car, feeling like I needed to do all these things on my own to take the pressure off of my parents. And no one was going to be there to support. And this was passed on in my family. It was really a pride and ego to be self-made. And that was passed down to me. Like, there isn't going to be any handouts. Nobody's going to lift you up. And when people did that, like, my first car came from my best friend's family. I did pay them for it, but they were very supportive and helpful to me. And those gifts, or somebody buying your dinner out, those things were like, no, like, I got this, right? Why not accept those gifts when somebody is offering you that? They're offering you that. And it was just a place of like pride and ego. It's that self-worth, like, oh, I'm not worth this gift. That's what I realized it meant later on in life. I just did not understand that when I was younger. And so, yeah, some of the feelings that come up are insecurity, instability. Like Martina said, like, when I did have money, it would be gone. Helplessness. Like, I don't know how to budget. I don't know how to have more money than I need to survive. Like, just simple survival. Let's use the credit card and then pay it back, instead of let's save the money and then buy things. So it's like that, yeah, just not having the skills. So feeling inadequate. Yeah, feeling this sense of inadequacy, and loneliness was a big one for me too. Like, I don't need anybody, I'm going to work hard. There was a sense of loneliness I didn't realize was there. So, so there's a lot of shifts that all three of us have been doing over the course of our lifetime, our adult life. And we're going to talk about those shifts, and also, where our money story is now, what kind of practices have helped to shift the mindset and bring abundance to our lives, kind of unlock that abundant life. So who wants to jump in first?
Well, I feel excited, so I'll go.
Okay.
Yeah. So for me, my shift really kind of started with my mom. And I feel so fortunate for that to be the case, because, right, like, my mom was just like such a hard worker and such a great and generous person. And then she did have like these negative money stories. And then for her to also be the person who's brought the shift, like, I think that's so beautiful. As a mom and as a coach, like, that just feels like such a gift. And I know not everyone gets that, but my mom started getting into this idea of abundance maybe around like the end of 2019. And actually, I remember her saying at that point, she introduced me to Martha as well. Like, I don't have a mindset problem. And then she realized that she did. And so some of the concepts that she would just talk about, I was listening to this video, I was reading this book or whatever, and I still had a lot of like the religious trauma around money. And I was like feeling really unsafe because of what also happened to my family in 2018. But I was like, okay, like, I can see like these are good people and they're making good money and they're not like corrupt people oppressing others. So like, well, if they can have it, maybe I can too. So I started like doing aroma freedom techniques on a regular basis. And that was a big part of my shift. And like, honestly, there was a stretch, Martina, I don't think you know this, in 2020 before March, where all of my AFTs were about self-love. I was like, I actually can't go anywhere else unless I love myself. And I don't even know how I figured that out, but I'm so grateful I did. And so month after month, I was just working on getting to a place where I really, really did love myself. And then continuing with these AFTs and like reading books. In 2021, I jumped into a group coaching program. And that is where it really propelled me, because it wasn't just like, me reading this book and being super motivated and then being triggered by a situation and going into like my anxiety and depression spiral that I had experienced in most of my motherhood. And then, so it was just like up and down, kind of like Martina said. But when I got into the coaching, it was like every week or more, I had the opportunity to be like, hey, I'm dealing with this. Do you have any advice? And so it was like being coached by someone who had been through a similar lack story and had come into abundance financially, was very, very helpful. And so that's really how I shifted. So it was like kind of a year of being introduced, doing the AFTs, but then being coached is what accelerated my growth in this area, from just being knowledge in my head to like in my body and in my heart.
So many things that I also had happen to me.
Right.
Do you want to go next?
Sure. Yeah. So my shift probably happened, oh gosh, I want to say about 3 years ago, maybe. Well, I want to go back further. Like, I feel like my shift started in my self-love journey. I was in a really bad place at one point in my life, in a very constant state of yo-yo dieting. And that's a big part of my story, is losing almost 80 pounds, thinking that that was the key to unlocking like my abundant life, my happiness, my self-worth. Only to realize that I literally hated myself just as much as I did, 80 pounds heavier. And that's my kind of low point, where I just felt so defeated. I put so much energy and effort into thinking that that was the answer when it wasn't. And so that's kind of when I slowly started shifting, very slowly, into realizing, like Steph has said, that self-love really had to be the start of that journey of shifting into abundant living and that kind of abundance mindset. So as it's probably taking, since that day of kind of looking myself in the mirror and knowing that my weight shouldn't define how much I value myself or love myself, that I started to slowly shift and started to develop these practices and hire coaches and mentors, and just really shift into that acceptance of myself and loving myself first. And that, as you love yourself, the more you can love yourself, not just physically, like, and that was the thing I had always focused on, was physical self-care, like made sure that I, ate only 1,200 calories a day, and that I, exercised only to, make sure that it was this much calories that was burned off. Right. So as I shifted away from that and into the way of really connecting back to my body and my self-love is when my shift started. And, it's slowly, I'm still on this journey. And that's what I love to say about my self-love journey, as, along with my abundance journey, is that it is always growing. It is always getting better. And I think the biggest part is just learning to value myself. And as I value myself, then all of a sudden my abundance becomes bigger, right? And a big part of that has been gratitude, being grateful every day for the things I already have, and just inviting in more of that energetic, high energy, high vibration type of being. And of course, a lot of the different practices that I, chakra work and journaling and meditation and yoga, and there's all these different practices that really create this abundant way of being. But I think the mindset shift really started when I started to love myself. So,
yeah. But this, being at this frequency, keeping yourself at this higher frequency with all these practices that you have, and that loving gratitude, like what that feels like in the body. I resonate with that, because my shift really started, I think back to going to college and leaving my home, where there was that stress, and discovering yoga and mindfulness, and realizing that I had an internal process that I could go through to feel secure and safe. And then this whole part about like feeling alone and nobody's there to lift you up. I started living cooperatively, lots of co-op living, and we had to work together to do things I lived in a all women's co-op in college, where we had cleaning duties, cooking duties, all the things that I realized, oh, this can be a collaborative effort, and we are all moving towards the same goal in life. So my shift really started like understanding that I am not alone, and there are other people that are there to support. And another huge shift for me was after my parents passed away. Well, first, my mother-in-law passed away first. This was really where I saw it. People came out of the woodwork for us. Meals, money, all kinds of things that I did not understand. Like I said, it was hard to accept. What I was told are handouts, right? Like they were gifts from the heart, like abundantly given, flowing to another person for no other reason but to give. And that, I'm getting kind of choked up, like that's what I want to do too in my life. That's what I want. I want to be able to abundantly give to other people. So I really worked on mindset of, well, if I want to give abundantly, that means I need to receive abundantly. It's not either or. And if I can conceive that, I can see that I want that, I can achieve that also. So you have both, and understanding that. And Leslie Potter, Pure Joy mentor, she has really been instrumental in that philosophy of you have both and it's a matter of being with the one that feels really unfamiliar, and the safe seat practice of you are safe. It may feel not safe. It may feel unfamiliar. And there's a reason your body is feeling threatened, or you're not understanding how that feels. Like, I don't know what it feels like. I did not grow up having an abundance of money. I don't understand that. It doesn't mean that I can't conceive it and then achieve it. So, and the last thing is boundaries. I learned boundaries. I learned what they were. Haven't, I'm still figuring out with each relationship where they are and where I'm at. And boundaries are huge in my money mindset. So there's a lot to talk about, but that's why we're having a workshop. So let's say what our workshop is, because that's where we'll work on some of these things. Did either of you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think it would be great to quickly hear, not kids, but you're gonna hear them, sorry. How does it feel now to be on the other side of some of these beliefs, right? So we had I had the frustration and the fear and the lack of safety, and where I am now is that I really do have an expectation of abundance. It's not like this, is it gonna happen? And I'm starting to see the evidence of what's coming. Okay, so when it's about to rain, you can see the clouds, and then you start to feel the drizzle, and then maybe you hear the, if it's a storm, the crack of thunder, right? And the lightning. And so where I am now is I'm starting to see the evidence of this newer reality, and that it's not going to be all of this struggle forever, and that I am a participant in that. It's not I'm waiting for things to happen to me. I'm bringing it towards me. I am attracting it, inspired action, and the feelings, right? Having these feelings of trust and security. And you guys, I just saw a quote this morning, and it was peace and abundance are synonymous. They go together, right? How can you have peace if you don't have enough food? Those types of things. And so that they come together, and it really is bringing about this feeling of peace in my heart. When I do feel triggered, I can come back. I'm safe. Abundance is available. And instead of looking at all the evidence of how it's not there, I'm like defaulting to looking to the evidence that it is coming, that it is here now.
Yes. Thank you so much, Steph. I forgot about that last part of the feelings of abundance. And then, yeah, the now part of, and I heard you say peace. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And trust. Trust is a huge one. Martina, what are some things that you feel now as you see abundance in your life?
Yeah, like I think it makes me feel very excited, and I think it's the biggest feeling I get is like, I think the word peace is beautiful, Steph, to just reiterate that, is that it feels powerful. It feels that, and I think for me, especially connecting it back to self-worth is, as I know that I am worthy of abundance and worthy of attracting it, that it does feel, you can like Steph, you said it perfectly. So I feel like even if I was to try and say it in a different way, like I really do feel that once you can shift your mindset to actively taking those conscious steps towards, whether it be using affirmations or journaling or that consistent effort of just attracting the abundance and inviting it into your life and manifesting it, keeping your energy and your vibrations high. When you can know that those are the things that are going to help you achieve that, then it feels so exciting to show up for that every day. So I guess that's my biggest feeling, is just the excitement that comes with it, to know that it is coming.
I love that excitement, because I share this quote all the time. Fear and excitement feel the same in the body, but fear is excitement without breath. And so when we can get into the breath, that peaceful place, we can feel the excitement of abundance and see possibilities. So I guess for me, what it feels like now is, seeing possibilities, being able to feel freedom. That trust is big. Trying to think of what that feels like, because Stephanie said trust, but yeah, that security and trust in knowing that I now have the mindset and the tools and skills to stay on track with what I envision my life to be. And even if things get derailed, like I had to get all new brakes on my car and we got a new free fridge a few weeks, like, when those things happen, I can still stay on my path. So I feel secure, grounded, trusting, expansive, hopeful rather than hopeless. Hopeful. Yeah. So
I think one of the things you said, like that seeing possibility, like, and it just reminded me, I don't know, but there's like a quote by Walt Disney about like imagination. And I think when we are in the scarcity and the fear and the worry, it like binds up our imagination. And yet like imagination is like what makes humans so awesome, right? And right, like I don't think that deer are imagining skyscrapers and like clean water for everybody. Like humans do that, but when we're stuck in those feelings of scarcity and fear, it really binds our imagination. And I think when we can get to the other side, like there's so much more possible, and that like makes our actions more empowered than actions coming from fear.
Yeah, I love that Martina said powerful, empowerment. Yeah. Oh, I'm so excited, ladies. So we have a workshop where we can work through with you some of your money stories and money beliefs. And and some of the practices we share, some of the practices that we talked about today. So we will actually do them in the workshop as a group. So we do have a workshop coming up July 7th at 2 p.m. Eastern. It will be recorded if you can't be there live, and you'll be emailed the recording. So I hope that some of you will make it. I will put the link in the description of this video. And what else am I missing to say about it?
I mean, I kind of said this again, but like, it's one thing to like know it up here, but to like bring it into your body, that's where the workshop is going to help you more than just like liking posts on the internet and like making a pin board. That like being in there in that synergistic environment of women who have said, no, I don't accept that. I can't make money. I don't accept these things. And then to actually learn the practices, like Tanya said, that's going to be really powerful. I think a lot of times we're like, oh, is this for me? If you're wondering, it is for you. It is for you.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Embody the practices, not just read about them. And also the accountability, because yes, I was there. I would read about them all. I would do it once, and without that powerful synergistic energy, like you said, it just went in one ear and out the other. So yes. Okay. So we will head out for now, because I know we all have other things we got to get to. But like I said, I'll put the link in the description of the video, and I hope that I see some people there. All right. Have a good day.
Bye. Thank you.
Abundance to all.
Yes.
And to all a good day. Bye for now.